Thank you for joining probably my last login and Wining247.
Literally did not understand one thing they said, but welcome everyone.
Thank you for joining probably my last login and Wining247.
Well, let's continue. Welcome to another edition of Siege's show over at Roto Grinders. I'm Wining247, joined today by Probably My Last Login. How you doing, buddy?
Yeah, welcome to the Big Balls podcast.
We got to get a name sooner or later, don't we?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, probably.
All right. Well, today we're going to be basically, breaking down tournament construction for MLB.
Yeah, we are. So we thought it'd be a good idea to kind of just something we did a lot for the NBA podcast that apparently helped out a lot of people to remain nameless because they would not publicly tweet me because they didn't want to. I don't know. They're very private people, but
hey, there's nothing wrong with that.
No. I mean, like what? They don't want people hounding them for money, I guess. But whatever. We kept it. Didn't even keep it anonymous. Didn't even post it. Either way, thanked us for like walking through the actual construction of like GPP lineups and stuff like that. So we thought we would kind of do the same thing for the MLB, just like we'll try and keep it to this slate, right? The tips will be general. You could come back, you can listen to it later, and it should help you no matter what. But we will, after we kind of walk through what we like to do for GPPs, we will walk back through the slate for today and see if we can apply those principles and make kind of like a little bit of a dummy lineup to throw in something.
Yeah, for sure. No, I mean, one of my big things in tournaments, if we were on, we can say, I'll just start with batters type thing. One of my big things with, I like doing basically a 4-3-1 stack. That's probably my favorite. I feel like I would love just to have that one-off. Preferably, I like a guy that can kind of steal. So if he gets on base, the one-off, so you're not just totally reluctant on, let's say, a home run. So, that's helped me win a couple tournaments. Usually most of the time my one-offs are a guy that can steal. But if, I have a one-off that can hit that bomb, you can't complain there. So, that 4-3 stack's huge. And I like actually throwing my 3 stack against a chalkier pitcher.
Yeah, how'd that work out for you today?
Today that worked out perfect. I mean, I couldn't have had it. What was Severino, like 40%?
50, I think.
Yeah, no, I mean, it worked out perfect. The funny part is, I don't know if we want to tell the story, but my bottom half stack ended up working out pretty good. I had everyone on the team that hit a home run. I had a lot of Coughlin, Goins I had. I don't even know if I said the name right, Batista. So that paid off because, think about it. You got 55% of the field that have Severino. So that limits to 45%. And those 45%, none of them are going to have, Blue Jays. So, not only do you get rid of half the field, but you're also just playing. It just opens up endless possibilities, and that's how you just differentiate yourself, especially in baseball. It's not NBA. Baseball. I think any offense could really go off. I mean, look at Kershaw tonight. He's already let up what, 2 home runs?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't mean to I don't mean to preach there. That's not to play him. I'm just trying to make the easy example there is.
Yeah.
So, I mean, what are some of your favorite tournament, strategies?
Yeah. Sorry, I was
Yeah, what are you scrolling through?
I was going back through gosh. Don't make fun of me. I think I was looking for our podcast that we did where we actually broke down Severino, and I basically was like, we went through the whole thing and we were kind of like, kind of worried about this guy because his strikeouts and stuff like that were like really not that high, and he was kind of performing slightly above himself, you know,
Yeah.
like still very good pitcher, is going to do great, but the numbers were not matching up today, and that's why you kind of decided to jump on the Blue Jays. And the funny story was that we have a friend who does baseball analysis and writes for a living, and he was kind of mocking the Blue Jays lineup, and he said something along the lines of like, "Look at this lineup! Like, how effing ridiculous is it that like Goins is the fifth, basically the fifth best hitter in this lineup or something?" And Jack jumped in kind of late, and he called just the very end of it, so he didn't have the context, and he kind of thought that our buddy was saying like, oh, like
Goins was a good
Goins is
player.
he's like the fifth best player on this team. Like, if you're gonna make a stack, make sure he's in it. Type of thing. So Jack put him in.
And then sure as shit, I tell them that, hey, I played Goins. They're all basically laughing at me.
Dot. Oh God, this is after the home run though, I think.
Yeah. So luckily I didn't say, hey, I played Goins and he doesn't do anything the whole night, so I don't look that dumb. At least it was dumb luck, I guess.
Yeah.
So.
I don't have my boom sound yet. I'm gonna eventually get to it. Do I have a sound for you? Do I have a sound for you? Yeah, that's about as close as we're gonna get. So anyway, right. So yeah, for GPPs, Jack likes to start with batters, which makes sense. That makes sense. That's whenever we talk about.
I mean, obviously you'll have your pitchers, but I was just starting in that aspect because
no. Just whenever we talk GPPs, you tend to gravitate towards batters. I'm like super obsessed with like pitching statistics and stuff like that, so I tend to gravitate towards the pitchers. But I've heard both sides from lots of big GPP talents in the industry. I don't know what you want to call them, but I have heard it definitely both ways. So I don't think there is a right or wrong answer on that.
Now, what's some of the ways you attack pitching then, if you had to say it in a nutshell, I guess?
Yes. So for GPPs, I would say don't restrict yourself to anything specific. Don't have to play, the best ace on the slate, but you don't also have to fade them. I think people get too obsessed with like ownership percentage, and they see a guy like Chris Sale is going to be 70% owned or something, right? Something stupid. I mean, his price on DraftKings is like, man, 12.5, which actually that's really low. Like Kershaw got up to like 14K last season, so 12.5 is actually pretty low.
And Chris Sale's actually started out this season like amazing.
Yeah, I mean he really people like is he being amazing, right?
I just love Chris Sale.
But people always talk about regression in terms of like a negative regression, right? Like but regression just means regressing towards the mean, right? It's shorthand for regressing towards the mean, which means the median expected results. For Chris Sale, because of the White Sox and their bullpen issues and stuff like that they had the year before, and the new management, they pushed really hard for Chris Sale to become a pitch to contact guy,
Yeah.
But he wasn't a pitch, like that wasn't his natural style, but he did it anyway for a good portion of the season. But now we're really seeing some regression in that he's regressing back towards this very, very heavy strikeout pitcher.
Yeah, if you look, man, he hasn't had one game. He's had one game with under 10 strikeouts, and he's had 5 starts.
Yeah, and people are gonna be like, "Oh, regression," but yeah.
Can I tell you his price really quick on FanDuel?
Please tell me it's like 11.
It's 11.7.
Gosh, man.
What's up, Doc?
Yeah, that's a little crazy. But yeah, so this is what I mean in terms of ownership and stuff like that. You say, okay, Chris Sale's going to be very highly owned. And again, this is because I start with pitching. You're going to start with pitching tomorrow too, just because Chris Sale's on the slate, but normally you wouldn't.
Well, the thing is, like, yeah, exactly. You're 100%
Yeah,
correct.
normally you would never start with the pitcher because there's always a pitcher that you can find that'll fit, that'll do some stuff, but it's Chris Sale, so I know you're going to start tomorrow with Chris Sale.
No, that's what's up. Like,
Yeah.
I know he's gonna be chalk, but I'm gonna tell you what, I think I'm gonna have 100%. Every slate so far, I've had 100%.
Yeah. The crazy thing is that even on a smaller slate, he's been on, I think, 2 smaller slates, and he was like, 60% owned or something, but it's like basically free rake, free rake plus. So I again, we're gonna try and work through and make like a little bit of a dummy lineup, I think, as we go through this, which is obviously not going to be good tomorrow because at least one person will sit, or throughout the day we're going to continue doing research and we're going to find guys, right? But I do know for a fact that both of us are going to play them. And again, that's just something that you need to develop, right? Is that kind of sense of things, of how certain teams are, what their weaknesses are, what their strengths are. Like, these are stats that you actually need to continually look up, but once you kind of establish them, you can look them up less. So we just know, right? We know Baltimore strikes out a lot, right?
Yeah.
They strike out a lot.
It's like a perfect spot for him, man. Like,
right. So we have 2 tutorials up, right? We have the one for Fangraphs where we go through pitching, and then on the other end, the matchups, right? And then we did a little bit of a StatCast one as well. So I'm not going to break it down as much. Like, I'm just going to go ahead and do it. And you can just go in the video archive and watch that back. So I'm going to quickly go. Is that good enough on your end? Can you see everything?
yeah.
Okay, cool. So we're going to go to batting, right? Batting leaders. We're actually not looking for the leaders. Right, we're going to go for the no thanks. Probably should just become a member.
Yeah, I mean, by the time that you just keep saying no every time, no thanks.
No thanks. Let me pass on that. Okay, so Oreos. Right.
What do they think? You're made of money? Come on.
Yeah. Jeez. Okay. So oh, you know what? I actually did not want to do Oreos. Sorry about that. I like to keep things contextual, like if you don't study the stats as frequently as I do, you won't know how good or bad a team's numbers are just by themselves. So it's better just to have them with all the teams together. So we're going to take a quick look. We're going to be like, okay, what's this K percentage, right? And guess what? Jackaroo, you see what I'm seeing?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, versus left-handed pitching this season, the Orioles are just barely behind the Rays at 26% K rate. And not only that, but they're following it up with, I feel like they usually at least have some decent power, but apparently not this season. I'm a little curious, real quick. Check real quick. Just submit.
Yeah, I know that they've always kind of, I mean, I'm always been a little scared of Baltimore, but like, man, like I feel like once they're swinging and striking out, they're just gonna have a bad night. And man, I'm just pumped to play. I always am like just like excited when I see Chris Sale's name on the slate.
Yeah, and dude, we've been specifically opening day or maybe not opening day, but Pomeranz start against when Pomeranz had a game, another lefty. Another strikeout lefty was facing the Orioles. I was really excited for him, and he crushed it. So yeah, we have the number 1 so far this season strikeout pitcher in the league, who's less than 13K, who's can go 9 innings if he wants, on 112, 115 pitches, and he's facing a team that is striking out the most against lefties. So this is a prime example of, you do not have to automatically fade this guy just because he's going to be a high ownership. The matchup is that good that we will take that, because you know what? He's only going to be 60% owned. So whatever, right? We'll play him, and 40% of the teams will lose.
Yeah, I mean, for sure, man. I think his price is just way under. I mean, that's what stinks with like Kershaw today. Like, it's hard not to play him. I just got talked in so much to him, but there's so many good pitchers on this slate that I think, I wish I had a little less Kershaw, granted, because he just gave up another run. But tomorrow, there's just no way. Like, I can have, I cannot even find a way to talk me off of him. I wish I could. If we weren't talking about this slate, though, let's say there wasn't a pitcher like Chris Sale on the slate, and let's just pretend he's not on the slate. And you see the pitchers you do now, how are you attacking that?
Yeah, so I break my categories down into aces versus non-aces. And again, this is just something that you have to develop a general sense, right? John Lester, he's not the number one pitcher on his staff, or he might actually be now, but he wasn't, right? Verlander, God, I don't consider Tanaka an ace, but whoa, what a game he had, right?
Yeah, I think they put Lester, as the ace now, and
Did they?
to not.
Okay.
I
Well,
mean,
that's good. He's been for like last year too.
Arrieta has not looked good, man.
Right. I guess last year it was the professor. The professor was the ace on the staff. He had the best ERA. Right. So I work through the aces normally because generally these are the guys that have that infinite upside. That 50 DraftKings point upside. The Scherzers and the people on the people that used to be on the Mets that are all dead now. But other than them, I do work through the aces first because an optimal GPP build, as you definitely know, is the ace with the I don't know anything that rhymes with ace that would be like slightly degrading. Do you know anything?
No. Ace of base. I don't know.
Not a single thing.
Ace rhymes with so much stuff, man. You're the freestyler here.
Yeah. So
ace, space, mace, case, lace, taste, car race. I don't know. There's a lot.
Yeah. So we're trying to race for So the issue with the ace build, right, which is the typical cash build, is that it limits your remaining salary, right? 3,300, which is that's actually high, probably.
Yeah, that's not bad.
Yeah, it's definitely not bad. Usually you have at least two guys that are more up there. Or I guess, yeah, I missed Kluber. Yeah, even better. So usually what happens is
and with Collins' price, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Well, he's going against Kluber.
Yeah, he's definitely still in play.
Yeah, dude, he's too. Continue.
Right. So the point is, when you get this build, right, and Tyler Collins actually takes a $400 bet, ridiculous.
Wow.
The problem with that is you land on the same plays, especially now, right? That DraftKings, or now, I don't know how many years it's been, but when DraftKings added the little indicator dot to tell you when someone was in the lineup, little green check mark thing.
Yeah.
Right. It really messed things up in terms of this ace build, because now people they scroll down, right? You see it all the time. But you do it yourself, right? You scroll down, and what you're doing is you're scrolling down as far as you can, looking for that green little check mark to find the lowest price player that you are comfortable with,
I think that I'm glad they added it, especially for a player like me. I know, I know the lineups, starting lineups, that type of thing, but
what's that? What player like you? What's that mean?
I'm a Rain Man, man. I can just feel things. So if I see the green check marks, like it just, it calculates in my mind, and I understand.
Thank you for joining.
Yeah.
How does that even fit?
No, it doesn't. But yeah. Sorry, we're kind of belaboring the point, but there's just so many starting points that we'll narrow it down as we start selecting those points. But I just wanted to point out that this is usually not an optimal build. So like if you made a Lance McCullers Kershaw lineup yesterday, it actually did work if you had any sense about you, because, well, I mean, sorry, didn't work, but obviously we're going to assume that Kershaw had a good night, right? He had a bad night, but imagine he had a good night, like he should have had. Right? You put in a Conforto, right, who's bottom barrel, 3,100. You put it in a Collins. Shortstop, you working a Timmy Beckham. You know, you're trying to get these cheapies in because you just can't afford much. Yeah, all those guys did really well. So you should have done really well. But that's, you know, typically not the case. A lot of the time, these guys are cheap for a reason, and even if they're not, they're the cheaper guys. A lot of the time are inconsistent enough that you don't want them anyway. You don't want them anyway. So why overlap? So typically you end up right with the expensive pitcher, and then you kind of start hunting right for the cheap guy. The cheap guy because you can actually get all the batters that you could with the mid-level pitcher build, which is also another successful build.
Yep.
You can get all the same guys, but instead you get that high price guy, you get that ace, and then you get a guy, if you can find him, that'll match the production of a mid-level guy. So you get the ace production, you get mid-level production from the cheapie, and then you get all the same level bats from the mid-level, except you have better than mid-level pitching, you know. And right, so you just gotta look sometimes, and it's not always there. You can't force it, but every once in a while, you know.
Oh no, we're in trouble, people. He's snooping. Where are we going? I totally knew you were gonna bump back up right when the beat came.
Yeah, I know you did. Who jumps out at you?
Tomorrow?
Someone should just leap
Or
off
today?
the page. Or well, it's technically today.
Yeah, today, exactly. And in the low tier, we're talking.
Yeah, because I think we'll go. I think we'll go with that, with the high-low build, because there are some. Looks like there are probably some. I haven't seen the price from there. There are bats that I like that are probably going to be a little bit pricey. So we can always. And again, this is another reason why I like this build. You do the high price pitcher. You mix them in with a very low priced pitcher, and what that lets you do is after you fill in the bats, sometimes you'll just have like an extra 2K. And then you're like, oh, I can move up to like a more consistent pitching option and maybe adjust a single bat.
Yeah.
You might as well start with down here. So is there anybody in particular that we have been talking about, that I've written up extensively, that we've spoken a very stupid
There's
amount?
two that come out that I hope I'm a little worried about. It's either Cahill or Glass now.
Oh, I thought you're okay.
No, what? Are you talking about Chatwood?
Yeah, Chatwood away. So again, this is like something you pick up on, is that
I just figured you were going like way bottom of the barrel.
Well, you know, the problem with Glass now is just specifically against the Reds with
Well, that's
Billy
why I said I
Hamilton.
hope not.
Yeah, no. Yeah. It's just with Tyler Chatwood, his away splits are just so amazing. And again, that's something that you need to focus on and start to pick up. Look up the stats yourself, look them up every slate, try and go through as many guys as you can. And then eventually you'll run into him once, twice, three times after like the fourth time.
He's definitely a little risky, but yeah, I agree.
Yeah, you'll know. I mean, again, Tyler Chatwood last season was like on the road last season, was like a Cy Young contending pitcher. Look at this. I mean, just look, right? These are all at home, right? At home, in course. 2.7, 7.5. Oh, he's finally on the road. 35 fantasy points, right? 35 fantasy points.
Did you say 35?
35. Right.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. But I mean, yeah.
He's not who I'm talking about, but that's just stuff that you need to look up, right, on every slate that you can. Just go, just like try and get as many pitchers up as quick as possible. Like look at anything. Look at the home road splits ERA. Like you just need to internalize. You should know, right, that at course, which everybody knows, right, high totals, lots of runs scored. So just recognize that guys that pitch for Arizona, guys that pitch for Colorado, right, guys in these smaller parks, guys that pitch for Cincinnati, look up their home road splits, because it might turn out that a lot of these guys are pretty phenomenal on the road. Now, that's not who I was talking about. I was talking about Trevor Cahill, because his stuff is absolutely fire. And look at this, dude. Get 9 Ks, but he was in Chase Field, so he got the ground balled to death.
Yeah.
But other than that, right? Like his stuff looks great. Looks great.
Yeah, and everyone keeps talking, you know, blah 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 blah. But you know what I see? 5K. I mean, come on.
5K. Colorado looks awful. Even in cores, they don't even look good, right? Like
Yeah,
sometimes they look good, but I wish we had the spreads. You got the spread of that game, the over under.
I can pull it up if you want to keep talking.
Yeah, so I'm just gonna keep talking. I'm not gonna say anything in particular, and he's just gonna say some stuff, and then like we're just gonna.
Yeah, for sure.
Just
I'm
gonna,
pulling
like,
it up.
just-
I got it right here. So we're looking for, who was it again? Cahill and
Thank you for joining.
8.5.
8.5. What's the
No, it's 7.5. My
what's the
bad.
money? Yeah, 7.5. Oh shoot, I'm a genius, right?
Wow,
It's
7.5.
already probably one of the lower totals on the board.
I was reading the Toronto Yankees game. My bad.
Yeah, what's the money line for Padres?
It looks
Minus
like
110?
San Diego.
Minus 110?
Oh, man, it's just reading all over. But yeah, minus 110 is probably the most consistent. The
Nice.
night before is always tough.
Yeah. So
But I follow
anyway,
one site because I always pull up all of them. But I follow VI Consensus or MGM Mirage. You know, it's a good one too.
yeah. Okay. So gosh, we're just all over the place tonight. Sorry guys, it's just there really is so many different ways to attack it. But either way, a 7.5 total, right? Minus 110 favorite. That's kind of like a little bit of an inkling from Vegas. They're saying, well, okay, these offenses have been kind of sputtering, and these pitchers are actually shockingly decent. You know, don't rely too much on Vegas. In fact, that's kind of one GPP thing that we like to do is once you develop a good sense of the pitchers and the matchups and stuff like that, you start to look at the Vegas totals to see who the highest totals on and they're not here. They will be here tomorrow or soon. We look to see who the highest totals on the board are, and just our internal kind of recognition of the matchup. We can see where the chalk's going to be because there'll be someone that's like a 6, a 6 implied total, like a really high total. But we'll just internally know, like, no, this is really not that great of a matchup. So a lot of Blue Jays games early on, they were getting spotted these 5.5 implied totals, and we were like, no, that's not going to happen.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, man, the Blue Jays just, like you said, look horrible. They did good tonight, but you
That
ready to
wasn't
start?
even that wasn't even the Blue Jays. That was like the
Yeah, it was a different team. You ready to start kind of breaking into the tonight's slate, though?
Yeah, sorry guys. We're again, there's just so many ways to attack it that the starting point is hard. So this is why I like to do pitching though, because you can at least start with your base. And again, like I said, when you finish doing your bats, when you finish doing your stacks and stuff like that, sometimes you'll end up with 2-3K left over, and that's when you're like, oh, okay, well, who do I like up in this range, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So let's begin. Right. So obviously the number one place to start when you're building any lineup period, right? Any lineup stack for a GPP stack, non-stack for a cash game, right? Is like, who's the worst pitcher on the slate,
Definitely. I mean, talk about, how many games are on the slate? 12, 13?
I thought I saw 14, but that might have been wrong.
Yeah, I'm counting them right now. We got 12. We got 15. Bam, 15 games. I think there's going to be a lot of, gas cans that we can kind of attack. Is there anyone that really stands out to you?
So surprisingly, and I thought the same thing that you did, because when I first checked out, like there were a couple of the big names, but after that, like I was just scrolling and I was like, okay, not a lot of huge names. But then I kept looking, I was like, okay, maybe there aren't as many gas cans, right, that are on the slate as I thought there would be. Like I thought there would be like an infinite amount. Just every game was going to be explode fest, right? But so let's start, right? Again, with the totals and stuff, it does really help. So I go through this first game, right, and I see Matt Latos, and he's a guy that I'm going to check into a lot tomorrow. He's pitched a little bit better.
Yeah, he
lately.
pitched for the White Sox, I think so.
He did. He did pitch for the White Sox, and then he pitched for the Angels, and then he pitched for the Blue Jays in about a 2-season span. But either way, again, he's a guy that I'm going to look very, very closely in tomorrow. But I don't really think we have the time for that because he is someone that I need to dig a lot in. Like his velocity's up, and he's had a couple of decent games, and yeah. So it's a guy that's like, oh, either I'm going to stack against this guy, or he actually is kind of one of those prime candidates of a guy that could be this, like Yankees could be a chalk stack tomorrow, right? And the total will be high. We'll see a nice high total. But then after some good research, I'm going to be like, you know what?
Yeah, it's only at 8.5 right now.
Okay.
The highest total right now that it
But
looks like it is
well,
Glasnow and Feldman, Pittsburgh.
Right, yeah, it's 8.5 because Tanaka gets spotted a lot of free points, although he looked pretty good last couple games. Tanaka gets spotted a lot of free points, and yeah, so that's probably it. Is he's Tanaka's like what? Probably like a -200 favorite.
I had it pulled up. Here we go. Yankees, Mets, Tanaka. Yeah, it looks like, yeah, you're right.
Yeah, he probably shouldn't be -200, but nonetheless, that's my first inkling. So this is the type of thing that I'm talking about. You get an idea of these matchups and stuff like that, so you can kind of predict in your mind. You say, how good's the matchup, right? And then you kind of project that onto a fake Vegas spread that you would do. And I've been doing this for a couple of years, so now, as you can see, I can pull it off and I can actually come up with it. So sometimes it'll be different, right? You'll give the fake Vegas spread based on your very good understanding of the game, and it'll be way off. And those are the times where it's like, oh, I need to pounce on this. This line's wrong. Nobody's going to play this team. Moving on, right, to the next game, Arizona D-backs, Washington Nationals. Nationals kind of strike me as this is kind of an interesting game because the recency bias could be super strong in both sides. Walker had an amazing game against the Padres. I think it was like a 13 strikeout game, something ridiculous, and the Nats are coming off a 23-run game. But either way, just looking at it, one of the things that I do look at are park factors and how that affects the teams. We talked about that with the pitching, right? Pitchers that are in cores, that's called it's a park factor, right?
And bullpens.
Bullpens, which we'll get to when we find
a
team.
Right there. We got one right now.
Kind of, but
the Nationals. I thought they were like second worst.
Nationals. Well, okay. I didn't even want to cover this game because it's so complicated. Both the Arizona Diamondbacks and the Washington Nationals have had two of the worst bullpens this season, and the D-backs had the second worst last season. But with the negative park shift for the D-backs and the fact that I think Walker is pretty decent, and not only that, but he's kind of a career reverse splits guy, and the most dangerous bats in the Nationals lineup happen to be lefties. Right, so it's kind of interesting. What's this? Is the 9 total?
Yep. Yeah, no, that's the highest total on the slate, like I was saying, is the Pittsburgh Cincy, which we'll get to soon, but this one's 8.5.
Yeah. So again, this is kind of a GPP strategy of just if you keeping abreast of the kind of recency bias that might be on the scene. And again, I think it could be on both ends. I think there could be recency bias in playing Nationals. I think there could be recency bias in playing Walker. But
so you're saying you think you should play Walker?
No, I'm saying I think you should play nobody in this game.
Oh, okay, it's a fade.
I think there might be people that are jumping on the bats. There might be people that are jumping on Walker. With the negative park shift and the fact that Rourke is semi-decent, I don't necessarily think that you want to jump on any of the bats. Jake Lamb could be a good one-off if his ownership is low. But either way, it's just kind of like, yeah, I'm not too interested in this game, like just at facial value, just if I have been following along with things, right? I just wouldn't quite be on this game. But people that have been playing DFS are going to get excited, right? And they might jump on it. Yeah,
I would agree. I think I love that take, man. I definitely have no problem fading that. But ready to go on the next game. I keep thinking your screen's my screen. I like try to scroll it. I'm
Right,
like,
I know. I could hear you. Kluber, Verlander. Man, if you don't know anything about the Indians and the Warriors stuff, like I haven't looked at it, but I guarantee you're going to see some crazy BVP in this game. For sure you are.
yeah. I mean, I think
I almost
Kluber.
want to check because I guarantee it's going to be weird. It's going to be like one of the teams are going to be like oddly good against the other, or like the opposite. Let's see, May 2nd. Okay, perfect. La-da-da-da. By the way, you guys in the chat, you talk about BVP like it's your mother effing day job. Just cut that out. Stop doing that. It's not good for you.
Yeah, BVP. I agree. It's kind of
Okay.
like the tiebreaker for me.
Right. And I knew there was somebody in here. Justin Upton, 12 at bats, 5 hits, two second base. He has 5 hits. Listen to this. 5 hits off Kluber. 2 of them are doubles and 3 of them are home runs.
Wow.
He has 5 hits and
How
they're
many
all
at-bats?
extra bases. That's what I'm saying. 12 at bats, more often than not. So this is why don't get too invested in BVP, because if you're only going by BVP, and again, Justin Upton might be a good play. I'll stack cast the shit out of him, especially against curveballs and stuff like that. And I'll see how that works out, because he might be, he might actually turn out to be a good play. And this is always a good GPP play, is if you can find, and not because of BVP, right, but just generally, if you can find a player who's facing a quote unquote ace or like a very solid pitcher, then he's automatically going to be very low owned. And that's a guy that can get you two solo shots of home runs, right, and win you some money.
Yeah, hey, I mean Upton with a 42% success rate against him. I think that's pretty good baseball.
Yeah, and V-Mart, not surprising, patient guy.
Yeah, look at those at bats, man.
Right,
He's seen a lot.
Yeah, then you look at, I pull up Verlander, and again, man, these matchups between Cleveland and Detroit, they're brutal, right? They're brutal.
Jose Ramirez stands out to me. My boy.
Yeah, Jose. Not as good as Lindor apparently, but yeah, 3 doubles.
Yeah, 40%, man. Yep. 9 for 20. 9 out of 22. I'll take that.
450. Yeah, but again, BVP, totally dumb. It's more about, honestly, like you said, tie breaking stuff like that. Like this game probably has like what, a 7.5 total.
Yeah, I mean with all these games on the slate, it's crazy to see these.
Yeah, but it's more about the pitcher, right? Because these guys like Corey Kluber against Detroit, or Verlander against like Indians, like these guys actually might grade out pretty well. It's just I worry sometimes, and BVP. Well, BVP be damned, but it's more of an indicator about the fact that if you see a pitcher enough times, right? If you're San Francisco and you see Kershaw enough times, you might be able to lay the smack down every once in a while. So for GPPs, anything that you can find, right, to really decide whether or not you want to fade play, use every tool that you can, and BVP is the last one, right? We want good tools, right? We're gonna bust out that tool, right? And you're just gonna fire it up. You're gonna get your fan graphs, StatCast, whatever. You're just gonna get that out and just wave it around. Right. So we get to the Baltimore Orioles or Red Sox game, and what stands out to you about this game, you think?
Oh man, it's a tough one. What could it be? The best pitcher in baseball, maybe?
I mean, we're talking offense. What stands out to you, I guess, looking at this one?
Boston offense for sure.
Okay, but I mean, so this happens a lot for a lot of people, but why does Boston's offense stand out to you?
I don't know. I feel like I'm in school getting quizzed. I think it's just because they're in a good spot. I mean, what else?
Thank you for joining.
It's because you have no idea who the F Alec Asher is. You have no idea. You've never seen that name. You have no recollection of it. Like maybe the dude landed on Earth yesterday. You don't know who that is, right?
Alec Asher used to pitch for the Phillies.
Okay, I know that you know that, but you don't know anything. You don't know if he's a fly ball pitcher. You don't know if he's a ground ball pitcher. You don't know if he's a strikeout. I don't know either. I have no idea.
I know
have
who.
no idea. I
I
have
know.
no
I've seen
idea.
him pitch before. I know who he is.
Okay.
I don't know if he was out of the bullpen or if he started for the Phillies, but I know
Okay.
that.
But that's the point, though, right? Is there's no name recognition, and that's something that a lot of people develop, and sometimes it's good, and sometimes it can be bad. I think too many times people see this an unknown name, right, and their first inkling is like, "Oh, who the heck's that?" Like you see a lot of times with batters, and teams roll out lineups. They're like, "Have you seen the so and so lineup?" You know, and it's like, "Oh yeah, yeah." They put 3 new bats that you don't recognize, and they're all hitting like, you know. They all have like 1,400 OPSs in the minor leagues and have literally killed people. So
Like
yeah,
the Yankees.
right, exactly. Yeah, they roll out Gary Sanchez and Aaron Judge and
These guys look like straight out
Greg
of.
Bird, and people are like, "Who the f is?" Oh, I mean, Greg Bird had people were hyping him pretty early, but either way, like, just that, yeah, it's happened, right? With Renfro and Schimpf and a couple of these guys for like the Padres, people are like, look at the Padres lineup last season. It's like these guys have 5 home runs this game just between those 2 guys that we were making fun of, right? But either way, so the first inkling is, okay, I don't know this name, right? I know Corey Kluber, I know Justin Verlander. So it's like, okay, well, this is the first spot, and I assume the total will be high. But this is the first spot where, like, man, like let's take a look at this Alec Asher. Like, is this the spot, right? And not just the pitcher, the first spot.
We got it at 9 total. So
You're
where
right.
do you think,
And
where do you think those runs are coming from? Chris
it's a
Sale's
9 total. It's a minus 300 money line. It's never
no
seen that
240.
before. 240. Oh yeah, I guess because the Red Sox offense has been a little bit. If it was last year with Big Papi in the lineup, yeah, it was a minus 300 for
Oh,
sure.
Big Papi. Yeah, those are the days. But
Right, so
man,
the first thing is, like, you need to take a little bit of a survey of the team and everything like that. We know that the Red Sox have a combination of size, speed, power, and handedness. We know that they have power, power and platoon advantage. They have lefties that can mash. They have righties that can mash. Benintendi, Moreland, these are lefties that can mash. We know that they have speed in Mookie Betts and where the hell is Xander? Oh, Xander, he was batting leadoff earlier today.
yeah, he's been all over the lineup.
Yeah, yes, they really want to get him going. Right, then they have righties that can mash, right, and Mookie and Hanley.
They should just get Hanley back from the taxes commercials and just, or I mean, Big Papi from the taxes commercials and get him back in the lineup.
Yeah, we miss him. But either way, so you just look at the lineup and they have such a nice variation that it's like, okay, let's just look at the pitcher, because if the pitcher is bad at anything, then we can at least play one guy, right? If he gives up too many fly balls to lefties, we have a guy. If he gives up too many fly balls to righties, we got a couple guys. If he lets too many stolen bases go by, right, to righties, or like, we have a guy.
We got a guy.
We got a guy. So let's check it out. So the first place I'm going to go is to the Fangraphs. I want to get like a nice little overview of this one. What's his name? Alec Asheroth. Oh, hold on.
Hope you had it.
I know. Okay. So
Bet you pitch for the Phillies.
This really means nothing up here, right? It's the scouting report from when they got drafted, but basically it says that he's a 40, which is below average. 45 is average, right? So just, usually doesn't mean too much, but it's still interesting to know, especially the younger they are, right? Still only 25.
You said what's average? 45?
45, yeah. 45 above's average. So, okay. It's
limited expectations.
Yeah, limited expectations. Like maybe not even the fifth starter. So again, we go to the splits tool. We did that first lesson on Fangraphs. So if I'm moving a little bit fast, I'm sorry, but we did all this already. Right, so the first thing I see this WOBA, and I'm like, oh, wait a second, that's kind of low,
Mm-hmm.
And you thought that maybe came out the bullpen? Well, let's check. Nope, not a single inning was out the bullpen.
Well,
oh no, I'm sorry. He had two for Baltimore.
He only pitched. Man,
60 innings.
Yeah, not much.
Yeah, about 60. So we see
Yeah,
that
but that's
number
in
like,
2 years. But continue.
oh yeah, it's very low. But so we know he's a right-hander, right? And I mean, look at that, 2.28. So we're kind of like, okay, something's up here, right? Something's fishy. He's not just getting passed around with this amazing number. So maybe it's like a handedness split thing. Maybe he like gives it up to the lefties. So we check lefties. No, doesn't really give it up to lefties that much. He did his first season. Righties, no, even worse. Man, okay. Let's go check the advanced numbers, right? Let's the XFIP. Lefties. Okay, so XFIP, I said I wasn't going to get into it too much, but I will get into this. If the FIP is much, much lower than the XFIP, it means that most likely the player has gotten lucky on home runs, meaning he has allowed a certain percentage of fly balls that should have converted into home runs, and they haven't, and FIP ignores that and says, we don't care, the results are the results. What's his strikeout percentage? What's his walk percentage, right? So far so good for him. Like Alec Asher's looking good. Versus righties, we see that it pops up on both sides. So what's the first thing that when we see a reverse splits pitch, or reverse splits righty? What are we thinking? Maybe.
We want to play some lefties.
No, I was totally messing with you because I know you wouldn't be thinking about this. Maybe he has a killer changeup.
Oh yeah,
Maybe he
you're the
throws a really.
pitching guy.
Yeah, I know. So that's what I was messing with you. Okay, yeah. Okay, so we're into the batted ball stats, right? We look at lefties, 34% hard contact with a 43% fly ball ratio. That's high, ladies and gentlemen. We talked about this in the first thing. Above 30% hard contact, over 40% fly ball ratio with a 0% infield fly ball ratio, which for his career is pretty normal, right? And the home run to fly ball ratio is 4.3. That's probably fake news. 60% fly ball ratio is like 9% hard contact with this this totally fake. I wish they got rid of medium contact because it really just hides the fact that it's borderline hard contact sometimes.
Yeah.
So looking at it, I mean, it's like,
So you said he had a 43% fly ball rate.
dude, he's got 43 career to lefties, and it's still 40 plus to righties, but it does look like he's better versus lefties. So we're gonna come back to this, but what I have talked about before is there are certain pitches, right, that righties have that they can throw to neutralize the other side, and those for the most part, I believe, would be the changeup and the cutter. The changeup moves away from the lefty, but it appears to be a fastball and it dips out into the other batter's box. And the cutter operates kind of like a two-seam fastball and it cuts in really hard on the lefty's hands, right? So it kind of jams them up. They
Okay.
kind of rides in real tight. So we're gonna be checking down here. We're gonna check his pitch values, right?
So he may not be a guy to pick on from what we're seeing right now.
Well, that's the thing is it is hard to tell. It's very hard to tell because his pitchers are grading out well. He's got the raw numbers, without extra analysis. Right? Yeah, his changeup actually is not. He doesn't even throw the changeup too much. Not grading out that well. Got a curveball. Got that pretty hard two-seamer. And by hard I mean not that hard at all. Right? So his stuff is actually pretty unremarkable. He's gotten pretty good results from it, but he is giving up a lot of hard contact. So he's kind of, gosh, I wish we would have picked a better subject. He really is, to me, kind of a wait and see guy. He's a guy that I will definitely stack against. He's a guy that I will stack against. But if
Is he a guy you can play with Chris Sale?
No.
Had to ask.
Not going to play him. That contact and that fly ball ratio, especially in Boston. So just looking at those numbers, nothing stood out, and they're all too low of a sample size. But it screams that he might be a very deceptive pitcher. He might be able to kind of pitch over his head, if you will, but he could be in line for some really terrible regression. But there was enough there, I guess, to say that if everybody's going to play Boston tomorrow, that maybe we'll only stack up 30% Boston or 25% Boston, right? Whereas like the nut spot, we would do 50%, 75% Boston.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Right.
Definitely.
And if we were going to stack up Boston, again, nothing in the numbers really led me to believe that lefties versus righties were any better than one or the other. But because of how the team works on Boston, right, I'm leaning towards going with Jack on the 4-man stack. They'd be our 4-man, right?
Yeah, I like that. No, definitely. I think especially because, I mean, well, if you had to guess it, I'm always so bad at this. What would you assume their ownership?
Well, that's the thing is we'll have to wait for the Vegas total. I think if the Vegas total could hit like 9.5, 10 tomorrow. More.
Yeah. Right now it's at 9, like you said. You never know. So
Yeah. The implied total, rather, the implied total for Boston could hit 5.5, and they'll be super popular. So whatever. Like, let's go back to our little fakey lineup, and let's just at least slot them in because we don't have anybody else yet. So we're gonna go with Mookie. We're gonna put Hanley in the outfield, and I think this is important. It's very rare that you have multi-positional eligibility between a first baseman and an outfielder, but because generally speaking, right, first base like non-multiple, there are so many non-multiple position eligible first basemen, right?
yeah.
At least temporarily, right, give us that ability. So we got those guys, and who's the other one? Oh, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why we need it, because Mitch Moreland's first base. See, live in action. Okay, let's keep going though. Let's keep going.
Yeah.
So again, park factors, right? Meaning like how production is produced in parks, right? So, I mean, we'll just go back to the StatCast real quickly, just to give you like a real example. So I keep using ISO. Do you remember what ISO is?
Yeah.
ISO power.
Yep.
You gonna tell people?
No, I was waiting for you to explain because that's what I used to tell my teacher, and then I'd make him tell me the answer.
Yeah. So it's basically like the slightly more advanced slugging percentage.
Oh yeah, exactly. So
Yeah,
it would show more.
they take the batting average part out of the slugging. They say how many times are people getting extra base hits.
Got it. Yep.
Right.
Now that you explain it. Yep.
Yeah. So we're looking at batters so far. Or let's not use this season. Let's use last season because just the sample size is larger. So the isolated power, right, by field. So if you had to guess, right, where the most power was produced, wouldn't you have just guessed Colorado, Arizona, Cincinnati? Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, Coors Chase, Great American Ballpark. Like, how great is that? Didn't even matter like necessarily the pitching or anything like that. That's who we would have guessed, right?
Yeah.
So it just turned like so many teams play in Coors, so many teams play in Arizona, right? So this kind of is a decent enough sample to show you that it might be the park. Now, all three of them had really bad pitching staffs. But you know what? Boston, right? Boston, they had okay pitchers, but still great park factors. But all the way down at the bottom, right? We see Miami, big ass park. Atlanta, which is now fake news because their new park is actually pretty favorable for left-handed power. San Francisco, AT&T, which is actually probably the worst generally. Oakland, Dodgers, pretty big, but still kind of fake news. KC, big. Either way, point is, right, that these are very real phenomena. It's like the difference between a 130 isolated power and a 196 is like a guy that is one of the best power hitters in the league, right? This is like a Yoenis Cespedes up here, and this is like Yonder Alonso or some guy, right? So when we're looking at games in or at Marlins in Miami,
Yeah.
really are very rarely going to take players in a game like this unless they have just infinite power. Infinite power.
But I mean, at Miami, I thought they kind of changed that stadium around.
No, I don't think they changed that stadium at all.
I thought it was more batter friendly now.
If they did anything to make it more batter friendly, it's still. I mean, I just showed you literally just last year.
Yeah, no, I'm saying this year they
They're
did.
dead last. Oh, okay, let's check this year. Nothing more batter friendly is they probably gave Stanton more steroids.
Yeah.
Okay, let's look at. Yeah. Okay. All right. Where are they?
14.
Da-da, but it's still low, man. And look at these pitchers that they're going at. Chad Cool. Tom Nova's good. Straley. Some good pitchers. Urena gave up 1 million runs though. You know what it was? Like they had those multiple games where they gave up 10+ runs recently in the season.
I'm telling you, this year it's a little different.
Okay, yeah, I'll do some research. But the point is, for now, we know that generally Edison Volquez in a big park is like not necessarily someone you want to pick on. He's got I think it's a decent sinker, stuff like that. And again, that's stuff you have to look up. This total will be low again. The platoon advantage might be there, but I think we'll just skip it for now. Alex Cobb, he's looked a little bit better. Good for him coming off that injury. His best pitch, I think, is a changeup. So there's potential. Again, I said infinite power in the stadium. Ozuna, Stanton, and then Bohr to some extent, but he's a lefty, so that changeup versus Cobb might be difficult. But these are guys like today that versus what's his face? Gosh, the Rays pitcher with the reverse. Oh, Odorizzi. We were okay with Ozuna and Stanton, and ultimately I fell on Ozuna just because he was cheaper, and he ended up being the one that hit the dong. So
yeah, no, that works out, I guess.
right. So now we get to the apparently the best game of the day that you're telling me. There
you go. Boom. Pirates Reds. Bam. Well, you know, it's got a higher spread. I mean, that's kind of where I go too when Hey, that's your favorite sound already, it sounds like.
Yeah. So
that's you coming along.
So what's the one thing that stands out to you whenever you see Scott Feldman on the hill?
Play some Pirates.
Not quite where I was going with that. No, Scott Feldman's one of those weirdos, right? He's one of those like guys that over his career has been kind of this really strong reverse splits, ground ball kind of guy. So he a lot of times, especially he pitched a little bit for Houston last year, people were stacking against him left and right, man. Stacking against him left and right. Didn't matter whether the team was lefty heavy, righty heavy, stacked all up against him. And you know what? Didn't always work out. And you know what? I only stacked against him when the matchup was favorable, and I didn't lose all that money that everyone else was because they were just ignorant. They saw the total and they're like, Scott Feldman's on the hill. Let's take a look because I think he might be. I don't know. I kind of get the feeling that maybe not. I thought maybe he was 5-0. Right. So let's take a quick look. So we see 3 years of Scott Feldman, and we see that so far, at least from a WOBA perspective, everything's quite in line. You know, hasn't changed much. That's the type of thing that I like to see.
Consistency.
Consistency. It means that we can trust the old stats. You know, so if the new stats look kind of weird, right? If one stat looks kind of off, we can be like, oh, okay, maybe not, right? And if you look at this ERA, like, man, people would have swore on their mother's grave that Scott Feldman had like an 8 ERA for like 2 years, the way that they stacked against him, right?
Yeah, like you said, I mean, that was like the thing.
Yeah, right. So let's take a quick look. He's a right-handed pitcher, so we hit lefties, right? And other than his literally only 8 innings that he pitched against lefties last season as a starting pitcher, right? Look at his numbers against lefties. Again, this is only 8 innings, so just literally just throw this out the window. That's like 1.5 teams. So we see he's got 48 innings of elite, you know, sub 300 WOBA numbers against lefties. Right.
Yeah.
We look at righties. Oh shoot. Right.
So he's better versus lefties.
Much better versus lefties, right? His xFIP's probably not going to show it because he's not a strikeout pitcher. His righty numbers say, oh, wait, shouldn't he be better versus righties? Or is he? Can you hear me, by the way, when I have this thing playing?
Yes, I do. I didn't hear about, you said he's not a strikeout pitcher.
He's his strikeout numbers, and you see this a lot of time with contact management pitchers that are reverse splits pitchers. They have a ton more strikeouts versus the opposite hand because they're not as good as managing contact versus the same hand. Or, I'm sorry. Yeah, so like Garrett Cole is a guy that I think we did a tutorial on Garrett Cole, and we saw how he had very low strikeout numbers versus righties, but his WOBA allowed against righties was very low. And that's because he has to become a strikeout pitcher versus lefties because he can't manage contact as well versus them. So it's kind of interesting. But again, we kind of see maybe the same thing, right? Scott Feldman versus lefties, his K rate is like sub 20 versus righties. Well, he's flashed. This is a little bit low, but I remember his swinging strike total is actually pretty high. But either way, so we look at the contact. So we're expecting his contact to be good against lefties, right? Before you've even got here, you're thinking the contact numbers have to be good against lefties, right? He's not striking them out, but they're doing bad. So, right, they must be hitting into the dirt or something.
Yeah, that's what you would assume, especially seeing those numbers.
Yeah, and we look at him, he's got sub 30% hard contact to lefties. Now, you know what the Pirates don't have a lot of?
Lefties?
They don't have a lot of lefties, and the only one that they really have that's any decent is actually trash. His name is Gregory Polanco, and he owes me a lot of money.
He's made me a lot of money.
Not this season, he hasn't.
I haven't played him this season.
Good, because man, just freaking garbage. But versus righties, we take a look at the righties, and shit, it's not even much better. It's not even much better, but if you look at these infield fly ball percentages, you see how high they are, how low the home run to fly ball, stuff like that. I think what you'll see with the righties is that they appear to be a little bit better. And this fly ball ratio is a little bit concerning. They appear to be a little bit better, but what we've seen before with these high infield fly ball percentages is that it kind of means that if it's really high, but if the pitcher mislocates on a pitch,
Yeah.
then at least for that pitch, it converts from a 33% fly ball percentage to like a 4% fly ball percentage on like a 35% hard contact. So either way, right? It's pretty interesting. Because they're gonna get a nice high total. They're gonna get a 4.8 run total. And they're in a good park, right? We pulled this Stu Mihiki out, and we did.
So he is a guy worth targeting.
Yeah, well, is he a guy worth targeting? Maybe the park is worth
on the
targeting.
righties. I mean, when he's at home.
Possibly at home versus righties, right? So that is kind of interesting. But in your mind, right, you can start working up a good fade strategy, right? It's like, okay, he's bad versus righties, but is he a complete gas can? No.
Why is he shown that it would, he's a fly ball pit? I mean, like all the things kind of,
But again, right, versus
you
righties.
said he was a fly ball pitcher, right?
No, well,
I don't know. Sorry, I didn't hear.
Sorry, yeah, no, traditionally he's not. See, he kind of looks like it. So versus lefties, like 39, 44, whatever.
Oh, he's ground ball. Wow.
But look at the infield fly ball, right? That's the key, right? Guys with like looking at Estrada's numbers in previous years, like, well, if he's a 32% fly ball pitcher, but if 23% of those fly balls never leave the infield, right?
Yeah.
Well, they're not going to be home runs. So you already have 23% of 32%, right? So, man, I don't know what the math is on that, 8%, something like that. So you're already reducing it by that much. And, what about the ones that just barely leave the infield? Those don't get counted as infield fly balls.
True.
They're still pop-ups. So,
True.
yeah. So we do know the park factors are good. This is 2017, and we showed you 2016 earlier. The ISO in Cincy was great. But the most important thing to me when stacking, especially in full teams, is the bullpen. Because, man, when you're making a stack, you're assuming the results are going to be good, right? When you make a stack, you're saying this pitcher is going to be bad. He's going to give up a bunch of home runs. He's going to get a bunch of runs, right? And most teams are going to pull that guy in 4 or 5 innings. So that means all of most people's research has only covered 60% of the at bats for the guys that they're rostering. 60%. That's it.
Yeah.
Right.
Man,
So
it's interesting.
Yeah, it's super interesting. So I take a look, and last season Cincinnati set the Major League Baseball record for home runs given up by the bullpen. So a lot of people are definitely still hooked on that. But shoot, is that the case still? We're like, okay, let's set this player type. We got batters. We know that we're looking to stack predominantly righties, because of Feldman with the worst number versus righties, and the fact that this team just has a ton of righties.
Yeah.
So we're gonna go. We'll go to league. So we want to see batters that are righties that are in Red Stadium, right? We'll go away because we don't want to include the actual Reds because they bat there 50% of the time. So, we want a more distributed. We want more distributed. You know what? Gosh, I want to mess this up.
Yeah.
We want the relief pitchers, right? We want the relief pitchers. Sorry, team Reds. We want the Reds pitching staff. We won't put them in their own stadium because it'll make the sample size too small. We want
True.
a player type that is a batter, and we want them right-handed. So we're going to take a look at the relief pitchers and the ISO that they're giving up. Nope, not exactly what we wanted. Oh, that's right. We just wanted. Okay.
All right. Well, yeah. I mean,
let's double check. I think I'm actually 100% sure this is right. I checked it earlier. But this is saying, the way that this is laid out, is it saying that right-handed batters that are facing, hold on, no, opponent.
we are starting to run a little long here, so I don't know if we want to just hit glass now real quick because we put a lot of time on Feldman and kind of.
Sorry.
Just making sure. You know me, I got to watch the time because.
Yeah. So anyway, we're looking at the batters. We're saying, how has the league done when they're facing the Reds and the batters are right-handed and they're facing a relief pitcher? Well, I don't think you're expecting a 150 ISO, which is like kind of okay. People have identified the Reds as really bad and give up a ton of dongs, right? Like look at 2016. This is when everybody was hopping on this bandwagon. 122. Well, they actually got a lot better. They got a lot better. But lefties, right? Yeah, they're still getting crushed by lefties because they don't have any really good. They don't have any lefty relievers in that bullpen. It's all these righties that are pretty.
Yeah, how do they not have one? That's nuts.
They have none. Yeah, and all the righties that are in there, for the most part, really do give up a lot of hard contact and production to the righties. To the lefties. So that's just kind of an interesting thing. So we kind of know, we're looking at this. We think that there's a potential. Reds have not been very highly owned and stacked this season, but there's a potential that they might kind of become chalky. The Pirates. Same thing applies. Not very highly owned or stacked. But they could be kind of chalky in this matchup. People are like, oh, Scott Feldman. Oh, look at the run total. Oh, but at the end of the day, it's like, well, if he's only going to be giving up like kind of middling contact numbers, and well, shoot, even if he gets pulled in the 5th, he's going to get replaced by guys that on average have done pretty good against righties.
Yeah, I agree. Now let's give a quick synopsis on Glass now, or we can move on to the next game.
Or I mean, I was gonna wrap it up there. We don't need to do a full analysis. I know we were making a lineup, but
I gotcha. I didn't know if you were going game by game type thing.
oh no, I mean, are we running long for game? I mean, I'm not gonna do game by game. So how long are we running if we're not doing game by game?
Yeah, we're about hour 15.
Oh, hour 15. Yeah, let's wrap it up. I'm sorry, guys. We couldn't make a lineup. But I really wanted to work through the process as much as we could.
While we leave, why don't we make up a quick lineup for him? I say we can make a quick one up.
Okay.
But what are your thoughts? Because we're in this game. What are your thoughts on Glasnow while we have it up?
Yeah, he's a guy that I do want to look a little bit more into because his last start, when I was really looking at all the advanced stats, basically everything I saw, and I kind of joked about it in our group chat. I said, man, if you got rid of the walk numbers, all of Glasnow's numbers are amazing. Like he's clearly really talented. And maybe it's just like nerves or something that he had in his last couple starts. I mean, how did he even do his last start? I feel like he might have done decently well.
From what I thought, he did pretty bad his last start.
Did he?
Yeah, 3 innings. He got blasted by the Cubs.
Yeah. Well, you kind of expect. I mean, yeah. He's still walking too many guys, and that's what stands out is they got a lot of base stealers on the old the Reds. So like a Billy Hamilton, right? Could get a bunt, especially because Cervelli will be catching again tomorrow. So that would be like you said. Oh, Jack, you smart little devil, you. You're looking for a one-off, you said. You're looking for a one-off that has steal upside, you said. You're looking for a one-off that has steal upside in a good matchup, you said, versus a righty, which Billy Hamilton's better against. So
yeah, you wonder his ownership too, but yeah, no, you know me. I like my one-offs with a little bit of steal upside for sure.
Yeah. So going through that, we just saw this matchup did not end well. I mean, who stands out to you? Who stands out to you? Do you want to stack up against? Oh, yeah, we want to stack the shit out against Sonny Gray. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Full stack.
Yeah.
Not gonna get into that, but Sonny Gray, the fraud, is on the mound, and he is gonna get lit up. So
yeah, I mean, I don't know if you want to explain, Gray,
yeah, I mean,
his downside, obviously.
I mean, I honestly like spending ungodly amounts of time going through it. I don't think I could tell you exactly why he's a fraud, but like just decreased movement on his pitches, and they're constantly blaming it on mechanical issues and all sorts of stuff. So it's like,
wasn't he supposed to have pretty good upside too, which is funny?
Yeah, he was a Cy Young candidate.
Jeez.
Yeah, and then it's just kind of like, what the heck happened? Okay, so we kind of got a base. Again, we might actually end up not stacking against Baltimore specifically if it turns out that they have high ownership, and we kind of see these Alec Asher numbers, and they're like, oh, these numbers are possibly semi-legitimate, right? Maybe we'll pull out like Mookie will probably be the highest owned because he's got the nice name. Right? So we'll put in our little Billy Hamilton.
Sounds good to me.
One-off. Shortstop, right? We're looking. Fires my desire.
Just a lineup you can build, man. It's just so nice.
Didi, maybe. Yeah, he's looked good since coming back. Gonna against Latos with his traditionally has lefty issues, and then we'll finish it off with Buster Posey with the park shift against the lefty, right?
Yeah, definitely. That's a pretty solid lineup right there, man.
Yep. All right then. Sorry if we went a little bit long, guys, but we wanted to walk you through that. If you have any specific questions on follow-up stuff like that, I'll probably jump in chat tomorrow and get my lightsaber out and help you guys out with some stuff and kind of further explain some of these processes. You got anything you want to say over there, Jackie?
No, man. Like you said, kind of. I know we were all over the place, a little bit, but we kind of want to give, the tournament construction, that type of thing, and we've both had, major success and GPPs. So it's tough when you're thinking, you want to speak, and you also want to break down the game. So we appreciate following along, and as usual, we always appreciate you listening.